in our mayor's address this afternoon, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here on behalf of my colleagues at RBC to welcome our mayor, Mike Savage, to the podium today. He's been described as a skilled team builder, experienced business person, and public servant, community volunteer, and strong advocate for Halifax Regional Municipality. That's quite a list of attributes. As many of you know, prior to his landslide election as mayor of HRM, he served as a member of parliament for Dartmouth-Cole Harbour from 2004 until 2011. Here, he was active both in serving his constituents and acting as official opposition critic for human resources and skills and the status of persons with disabilities, and as chair of the Liberal Caucus Committee on Post-Secondary Education and Research. He served on 3 House of Commons committees: Finance, Health and Human Resources, Social Development, and the Status of Persons with Disabilities. As vice chair of the last committee, Mayor Savage worked diligently with members of all parties, with community organizations, and with individuals to advocate for programs to support Canadians to overcome poverty and disabilities and achieve their potential. Before running for Parliament, Mayor Savage worked in business development, sales and management with companies like Nova Scotia Power and M5 Marketing. It is important to note, however, that Mayor Savage's commitment to public service has not been limited to the political arena. He has also demonstrated community leadership by giving his time and energy to organizations such as the IWK, Neptune Theatre, the Heart and Stroke Foundation, Junior Achievement, the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, and many, many more. Since 2011, Mayor Savage has chaired a strategic council of the United Way of Halifax Region, near and dear to my heart, as part of their effort to identify strategic supports to build and strengthen communities and neighborhoods. He is also a member of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce, where he participated on 2 committees. Mayor Savage grew up in Dartmouth, graduating from Prince Andrew High School and Dalhousie University. He and his wife, Darlene, live in Dartmouth today with their 2 children, Emma and Connor. You can see why I had to refer to notes with a lengthy list like that. But I would like to say that personally, all of my interactions with Mayor Savage have been inspiring, have left me filled with optimism and promise, and have also been very refreshing. Whether discussing economic growth activities and opportunities, the stadium, or downtown development, I have found that he prioritizes the needs of this city and has very much a long-term approach. I've had the opportunity to hear him speak on several occasions from the heart, off the cuff, and top of mind. And I can tell you, this is a leader that speaks genuinely and with care and with a look towards the future. I had a chance today to meet with some members of his council just to chat with them, and they tell me that he's inspiring a new culture, he's a collaborator, and I think I heard too he's a great traffic cop in terms of helping people find the right direction and really making the best use of his new team. So I believe that a leader needs to have a strong voice, whether it's from the chair of authority or whether it's stepping out of that chair of authority and sharing their opinion, which we know he has done, and we've observed that already. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mayor Mike Savage to the podium.
Thank you very much, Kim Mason, who has done an awful lot for this community, not only for the bank, but for HRM, and I hope that that will continue, and I know that it will. It's a great pleasure for me to be here to speak to the Chamber of Commerce, an organization with which I've had a long history. As Kim mentioned, I've served on some committees, and I really want to thank you, Kim, and I want to thank RBC for the sponsorship today. I also want to thank my council colleagues, many of whom are here today. My Deputy Mayor, Reg Rankin, who's been a source of inspiration and leadership to me. Thank you, Reg. We have a former mayor and council, Gloria McCluskey, from the great city of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and many other councillors here, all of whom have been very generous and supportive of me as a new mayor, and I thank them very much for that. When I look out in the room, I see so many business people. I see university administrators. I see leaders. I see former mentors to me, like Robbie Shaw. Is there anybody in the room that Robbie hasn't mentored? Anybody under? But Robbie, Bill Murphy, and people I've worked with like Wayne Crawley in leadership positions. First of all, let me thank all of you who took part in the municipal election, the 37% of you that voted. It's probably higher in this room. But I do, on behalf of my family, thank you for that. I want to thank everybody who voted for me, and I know my wife wants to thank everybody who didn't. Thank you, Paula, and the Chamber and incoming Board Chair, Andrew Boswell. It is good to see so many people here today that I know. People who I also know love Halifax as I do, who feel proud and blessed to live here, to raise our families here. And I know that most of you are like me. We don't want to live anywhere else. And we've done pretty well in the last number of years when you look at it. Look at what we've achieved from the Canada Games, the new Central Library, the Convention Centre, HRM by design, the Metro X bus service. These successes have occurred when the community came together, put aside particular individual concerns, and focused on big issues. But I also think that many of you believe, as I do, that we can be a better city, a bigger city, if you will, not just in numbers, but in other more important ways. And I ask you to consider a question today. We all know Halifax is a good place to live. Are we a great place to live? And if we're a great place to live, in your view, should we be greater? Are we as great as we can be? Because we certainly have the potential to be a great city. I think too often we've missed opportunities and we haven't understood our own capacity for greatness. I don't think we've identified our strengths and been able to build on them as much as we should. So I invite you for just a second to imagine Halifax as it could be, as it very easily could be in the not too far term. Imagine a Halifax where surrounding the harbor is a vibrant downtown. Small businesses thrive, new developments demonstrate bold thinking without diminishing our heritage. People of all ages, all incomes live, work, and play downtown. Imagine a Halifax that fosters the entrepreneurial spirit in every corner of the municipality, including our rural areas. In this Halifax, we're fortunate that our municipality includes entrepreneurs who also happen to be leaders in the production of food, farmers and fishers who support our food security and are able to find local and export markets for their products. Imagine our Halifax, where tourists enjoy the nightlife of the city and the tranquility and the beautiful spaces in our outside areas. A great Halifax, which is a magnet for strong business and the talent that those businesses require. Our universities and community college working in concert with the private sector and the government to drive business solutions, making Halifax the leading creative economy in Canada. In our great Halifax, our artists are celebrated, our streets are safe. We're a healthy community where people move easily and efficiently throughout the municipality, whether they walk, bike, or drive, with the option of a transit system that truly meets their needs. Where we encourage sustainable new development, protect our green space, and have a tax system that is designed for growth. Imagine a Halifax where we have plans that support sustainable growth because all of our departments are aligned around key objectives. And we follow those plans with a streamlined bureaucracy focused on building the economy. That's the Halifax that I imagine, and that's the Halifax that is within our reach. A Halifax that exudes confidence, that works cooperatively, and expresses can-do in all of our thinking. A Halifax that truly understands and exploits our strengths. All of these things are within our reach because, my friends, we have a head start over most cities. Let's look at our assets, besides having the best junior hockey team in the country. Let's look at our assets. Halifax has a very large public sector presence, the military, 3 levels of government, 6 universities, a community college. Shipbuilding contract is another large play by the federal government in our local economy. That kind of public sector presence, with its relatively stable, well-paid jobs, can lead to a complacency and a risk aversion, and I suggest that too often it's been a cushion for Halifax. Instead, it can be a launching pad for creative partnerships, for entrepreneurial excellence, and a more diverse economy. Today, we have the opportunity to leverage the economic activity around shipbuilding and other sectors to transform this economy. We have the chance to determine truly how we will grow and how we will shape our community. Our location is another asset. It's always been one of our greatest strengths. We've been a gateway throughout our history. Our port sits in a deep year-round harbor close to major trade routes, and now we have the break bulk and special cargo facility in Sheet Harbor connected to the Halifax Port Facility. We have one of the best airports in the world. It wins awards every year. Halifax is unique as well in the range of disciplines and research opportunities offered by our academic institutions. Universities are a huge strategic asset, and they're willing partners in creating a stronger, more diverse, and talented Halifax. Our universities and colleges are economic drivers in a creative, knowledge-based economy, and they are significant partners with business in finding solutions and marketing those solutions beyond our shores. I think many people in our own community are unaware of the significance of the research and innovation that happens locally, but it's noted around the world. That's why Angela Merkel included Halifax on her recent visit to Canada. As a scientist and a leader of Europe's most resilient economy, she came to Halifax to learn about our work in ocean science. And that work attracts more than German chancellors. It's a catalyst for growth in our marine industries. And it is our reputation as a leader in fields as diverse as ocean science, aerospace, defense, biotech, finance, IT, and health. It attracts people and businesses to Halifax to study and to take advantage of the intellectual resources we offer. Do you realize that Nova Scotia's universities generate more than $800 million, almost $1 billion, in annual export revenue? Much of that is a result of the large number of out-of-province and international students, which now stands at 45% of enrollment. And Halifax, as the post-secondary center of the province and the region, sees much of that benefit. It is imperative that we work much more closely with our academic institutions. Halifax benefits from the reputations of our universities, and the universities benefit from the reputation of Halifax. So it makes sense to do more together. Last summer, I had the opportunity to meet with our 6 university presidents and talk about how we can strengthen the MOU that exists between the city and our academic institutions. I'll meet them early in the new year and begin that process anew. Already, the community college is preparing for the training requirements of the shipbuilding contract and other emerging industries as well. They offer the kind of flexible and experiential learning that meet both the needs of students and businesses across our province. As a result of our universities and college, we have a well-educated workforce. We graduate thousands of bright people every year, eager to make their mark and share their fresh skills with the world. Many of them are local students with family and community ties. Of the 45% who are from another province or country, many want to stay here. And they're exactly the kind of newcomers that we need. Young, well-educated, culturally diverse. How do we keep them here? One way is to provide opportunity right away. If graduates need to leave Halifax to get the experience to qualify for a job here, it's hard to get them back. Right, Paul Kent? As we consider recruitment and succession planning within HRM, part of that solution will be to specifically hire and mentor new post-secondary graduates starting this year. GHP's Connector program is a good example of what to do. It helps immigrants, recent grads, and young professionals expand their business network. In 2 years, more than 400 business people have signed up, and nearly 150 immigrants, students, and young professionals have found permanent work. This idea is now being implemented in 14 Canadian cities. So I commend GHP and Fusion for their initiatives to encourage the hiring of recent graduates, and I encourage Chamber members to consider where in their organization there might be room for an intern or a new hire. You know, my friends, it's often been said, certainly I've heard it said, that Halifax embraces the past and respects the future. Perhaps we need to reverse that. We must respect the rich traditions and heritage of our community. But great cities reach out, they grasp the future, and that's what we must do. We have to do it together. Government has a role. I want to talk about that. But so do the private sector, so do not-for-profits and social enterprise. Let me share with you some of the things I believe we can do as a municipality. Seems to me we spend a lot of time in Halifax telling ourselves that great things happen in other places more than they happen here. Now, I don't know if there's any senators in the room. I'm not advocating maritime union. But what I do want to be clear about is that it's time for us to stop competing with other maritime communities. I want Sydney, Moncton, and other centres to do well. But instead of comparing ourselves with smaller cities, we should be comparing Halifax with larger cities. We should be competing with Boston, with Ottawa, with Montreal, and working with Moncton, St. John, Charlottetown, Sydney, and other centres as the maritime leader that Halifax must be. After all, that is what winners do, and we will be winners. I've seen that winning attitude on the streets of Halifax. I've seen it among our entrepreneurs and business people, and it's an attitude that we will have in City Hall. I believe that government can benefit by adopting a more entrepreneurial attitude. We need regulations, absolutely. We need regulations applied consistently and intelligently with an understanding that we have a common objective, a prosperous, healthy community. However, we've all heard stories about the difficulty of getting an answer from Halifax on a proposal or an application. I am determined that we can't have good ideas getting a maybe in Halifax when they're getting a yes in another centre. We will never be able to guarantee a yes, but serious proposals deserve an answer in a reasonable time. And I believe that we've reached a point in HRM where the mountain of rules, regulations, and procedures no longer protect the public interest. It simply catches everybody up in a ponderous, complicated, and expensive process that effectively discourages innovation and ingenuity in both the private and public sector. We can improve our processes. Some of my earliest conversations with our CEO, Richard Butts, who's here today, and senior staff were about changes to allow professional staff to work more effectively and more productively. We've established an aggressive plan to restructure the Planning and Development Department to ensure that we have the right people in the right places to achieve optimal customer service levels. Other initiatives, such as navigators to help business people and others find a path through the maze of regulations, or the provision of better direction to industry on the application process, will allow us to be more responsive to the needs of business without compromising the quality of municipal oversight. With the introduction of HRM by Design in the Centre Plan, we're building a framework for evaluation of applications that will not require the resource-consuming case-by-case review. Recent decisions of Council have offered developers confidence that we will be following our plans and provide a predictable review process for proposals that fall within those plans. That will allow us to put our resources on more detailed consideration of those proposals that fall outside the plan and on the strategic exercise of ensuring that plans continue to reflect the public's vision of our community's future. Now, I must say that to achieve this, we need the province to act on amendments to the Halifax Charter. Unfortunately, 2 key amendments for site plan approval and density bonusing were introduced too late to be passed in this most recent session of the legislature. If Halifax is to continue to be the driver of the provincial, indeed the regional economy as it will, we must have the tools to generate and support economic growth. And this council and this mayor are prepared to take responsibility for decisions on the future of our city, but we need a charter that provides the authority to support responsible decision-making. I want to talk about a revitalized downtown. A revitalized downtown will take more than simply plans. Our economic strategy identifies the need for investment, and Paula mentioned this, by all 3 levels of government as well as the private sector. As part of our current budget process, we'll be seeking opportunities to earmark monies to make investment in downtown and to leverage similar commitments from other levels of government. The Cogswell Interchange, beautiful piece of work. Is there anybody here from the Society to Preserve the Cogswell Interchange? The Cogswell Interchange is one of those opportunities for the municipality right now. This can lead in the creation of an iconic downtown development. It is an opportunity to bring an international focus, local citizen participation, and a legacy project to our community for generations to come. Another current priority, streetscaping, will improve the walkability and enhance the business potential of our urban core. So reducing red tape and increasing investment are both important. So is reviewing our tax structure. Good tax policy is one of the best instruments in the municipal government toolbox to support regional plans for development, and we recognize the importance of getting it right. It makes sense to start, in my view, to start any review with the commercial tax rate, understand the problem, and consider the options. Now, much good work was done by previous council when it was undertaken, and we have to learn from that effort. There's many other ideas that have been presented and more ideas yet to come. But a fair and reasonable tax regime is necessary to be part of Halifax's growth story. Beyond the practical levels of regulatory practice, good governance, and policy, government can provide the public square for conversations and common actions by the diverse sectors of our community. We are in a position to build links between the not-for-profit community, businesses, universities, colleges, labor organizations, arts and culture, social organizations like the United Way, and citizens with good ideas and a commitment to our common vision of both prosperity and health. The municipal government has a responsibility to consider how economic development in the urban core benefits rural HRM, and an equally great responsibility to support opportunities in those communities. We have other resources, land, buildings, expertise, that can also be directed to incubate innovative small business and social enterprise. And my friends, I say we must be more supportive of arts and culture. Somebody told me recently that NASCAD is better known in Copenhagen than in Halifax, and that may very well be true. Artists who come here to study or to teach enrich the city with their presence. They also generate significant revenue through their work. And as businesses and people consider locations, cities with a symphony orchestra, a lively theater scene, musicians, and vibrant visual arts have an advantage. Cities where architects design interesting buildings, where public spaces include provocative public art, attract attention. They attract talent. They attract investment. We have some of those things in Halifax. We need more, and we need to share those with the world. And I've said many times that I want to be the marketer-in-chief for Halifax. A champion of this community is a place to do business, a place to live, a place to visit. And it's not because I'm the best salesperson in this room. I know I'm not. But I believe that the mayor is uniquely positioned to add value to your efforts to attract business and investment. I want to work with the Chamber, with GHP. I want to work with our universities. I want to work with the port. I want to work with our airport and determine where I can play a role. Because the next time a German chancellor drops by Halifax, all of our economic partners should be prepared to introduce her to the full range of opportunity for German business here in Halifax. I also believe we need a stronger voice on the national scene, not only lobbying the federal government, but working with our civic counterparts across Canada. Leading U.S. political scientist Benjamin Barber has suggested that cities are now the level of government where things get done because they act less ideologically and pragmatically than nation states. One of my first experiences as mayor, I think the day after my first council meeting, was a meeting of the big city's Mayor's Caucus. This is our opportunity to influence the national conversation, and I intend to make the most of it. Currently, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the big city mayors are working on a renewed infrastructure funding agreement with the federal government. Understand how critical this is to us and to municipalities across the country. Without continued funding from the federal government to restore and replace aging infrastructure, we face a crisis. By participating with other large cities, I believe our voice is strengthened. And the next area of focus for the big city mayors after infrastructure will be national housing. I intend to be an active participant in the national conversation on housing, and I will look to chamber members, as well as others in all parts of this community, for advice and input. We have some very successful experience in Halifax, including private sector support and involvement in housing, which we can share with the rest of the country, and we have things to learn from other cities. Safe, affordable housing for all of our citizens is the foundation of social inclusion and healthy community. Let's agree on this principle first, and then we can consider the jurisdictional responsibilities. I think this chamber deserves great credit for your recognition that social inclusion and healthy city initiatives are intimately linked to the economic strength of Halifax. In fact, at my first meeting as mayor with Paula Gallagher and Valerie Payne, we talked about the importance of social cohesiveness and a healthy city as an integral part of economic development. If we follow up those measures, Halifax can become a more welcoming city, and we can begin to build on our strengths to achieve the greatness that we all know is possible. It's not something that the municipality can do alone. I need your help. My door is open for a discussion of issues and concerns, and I know my councillors would say likewise. I will carry the banner to federal and provincial governments. I will be part of trade and business development missions. I will listen to the problems, and I'll work with you to achieve solutions. I will sell our city and our potential here, and I will take it on the road. This city has overcome great challenges before. Last Friday, we marked the 95th anniversary of the Halifax explosion, which destroyed lives and neighborhoods in a few devastating moments. In the wake of that catastrophe, a poster was produced that said simply, some of you may have seen it, "We shall never rebuild Halifax unless everybody works." That poster now hangs on my wall at City Hall. Today, our challenge is a bit different. Today, we have the opportunities to make that leap to greatness, but we shall never do it unless everybody works. I am privileged to be your mayor. I'm privileged to work with this council, with you and others, to reach higher, to be bolder, and to become a greater Halifax, the one that we all know we can be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. That was terrific. Thank you very much. I have to say, chamber audience do not give standing ovations lightly. This is the first in my experience, which I think speaks to how compelling your vision is for the city. Your pride is contagious, so thank you so much. When I hear words like bold and entrepreneurial spirit and maritime cooperation, winning attitude, social cohesiveness, that is music to our ears, I think, as business people, as citizens of Halifax, and certainly as members of the Chamber. So thank you for this. I hope there are some questions. I saw some people scribbling furiously. So
Anybody except Jeff Forbes can ask a
yes,
question.
I'm sorry. I meant to say everyone but Jeff Forbes, so just disguise your writing, Jeff. I'm sure I can get it past him. Thanks so much. So others, just raise your hand, and Chamber members will pick them up as we go. It says, great vision. What is your view of a wellness, sport, and recreation strategy for our citizens, for our youth?
Who asked that? I bet I could guess. You know, in running for a position like mayor, you think about where are the things that I can add value, and you start to divide things up into these are easy things, these are more difficult, and these are a little more difficult but really important. And the whole issue of health and wellness is one we spent a lot of time on. You know, in 1985, my father became mayor of Dartmouth. You remember Dartmouth, Gloria? You were on council. And my father determined that Dartmouth would be a healthy community. And people said, hell, what are you talking about health? We got the hospital, right? So a hospital is where you go when you're sick. A community is where you go for health and to stay well. So my vision is I said in the campaign, and this is something I'm going to discuss with my colleagues further, but I would like us to have a task force on community health that looks at everything from where does our food come from, what do kids know about food, to physical activity. It would include things like a rink and arena strategy. It would go beyond that to active transportation. It would involve a whole host of activities for adults and seniors. I want to look at ideas diverse. You know, I don't suppose Lil McPherson is here from the Wooden Monkey, but people who have those kind of ideas about health. I want to bring people to a table and say the outcome that we need is a healthy community. I'll say one other thing. I was part of the United Way last year. Catherine Woodman, I think, is here, and there's other people who are on the board. Kevin Stoddard may be here. And the United Way has refocused on outcomes, and there was 4 priorities, and one of them, Catherine, was healthy community. which was led by Dr. Margaret Casey. And to me, a healthy community is integral to everything that we do. It allows us to be more economically self-sufficient. It allows us to invest in things like arts and culture and active transportation. So my vision right now is that we have a committee of smart people that get together and say, what is the outcome that we need on health? What are the parts that make it? And get to work on everything from food production within HRM to physical activity to mental health to sexual health to all the aspects that make health important. So I've got lots of ideas, and I'll be talking about them as we go forward, but I need smart people in the room here today to be part of that on all aspects of it. I don't know that there's anything more important we can do than safeguard the health of our citizens.
Great, thanks very much. I'll get you to read that one yourself.
Should I read this? It's from Jeff Forbes, but there must be a prescription because I can't. Why would you not take a question from Jeff Forbes? Oh, okay, I think we've answered that.
That's literally what it says. A more legitimate question.
I've taken lots of questions from Jeff Forbes over the years.
Yeah. What plans are in place to encourage young families to move to HRM to help increase school populations?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things when we talk about downtown revitalization is we have to look at all aspects, and it's not just in the downtown. Let me be very clear. People need to have choices. So most of us don't live in the downtown core. Living in downtown doesn't suit me, but I think we want more people living in downtown. We want more people living in sort of the peninsular area as well as other areas. So to do that, we have to have affordable housing. And affordable housing comes in different strata. So there's people who are totally destitute. People who go to the Metro Turning Point shelter. If you've never been there, you should go there, have a look at it. There are people, that's got to be connected to mental health. It's got to be connected to the health system, to the justice system, and all that sort of stuff. But there's a whole host of folks, families that simply can't afford to live downtown. Now, I want people to look at the full cost accounting of that, what it costs to have a car. If you can live in town, do you not have to have a car? But we need affordable housing options within the downtown core, as in other areas, that give people the option to live downtown. That will increase the school population. We won't be closing schools quite as much. So I think it's a holistic approach. Housing is a piece of it and connected to the schools.
Great, thank you. When will a task force on tax reform be struck as committed during the campaign?
Well, I think a number of people committed that. That's something that I'm not going to do until we talk with my colleagues on council. That's going to have to be a decision of council. I have talked to a number of councillors individually, and I've talked to some administration about the fact that we need to look at that. I think there's a wide understanding that we at the very least need to look at options. So today in the paper, Charles Sirtwell was speaking about his plan, the Ames plan, on income tax-based municipal taxation, which is similar to what the CCPA, the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, have. So Charles and the CCPA, two very left-wing organizations on that. But it shows the wide range of ideas. I think, one of the ideas that needs to be looked at is are there options on the commercial side besides simply assessed value? Is it square footage? Is it zones? But I'm not making any commitments until these folks here and I have had a discussion, because that's a decision of council, but it's certainly something that I'll be pushing for, and I know that there's support for.
Great, thank you. We're nearing the end of the second year of our city's 5-year economic strategy. Are you satisfied that we have achieved the hard outcomes it promised?
I think we've made some progress, but I think we need to make more. Some of the stuff we've made some progress on. Other ones, I think, have, and frankly, some of them have probably been waiting for the new council over the last little while as well, to some extent. So no, I'm not satisfied. I don't think any of us are satisfied with where we are, but I think on a lot of areas, if you look at, not just on the economic strategy, where there's been a lot of great work done. Is Peter Spurway in the room? Peter's in the back of the room. Peter, you're going to be working on that too, right? Absolutely. So I think there's a lot of things we can do on that. I do take some comfort from the fact that we have other positive signs. There is development in the downtown core, thanks to people like the McRae's and the Lowens and Shedras and Ferris and the people who actually put their money in our ground to create jobs for all of us. So I think the HRM by design piece is really important. And we've been working closely on the economic strategy, international brand, talent, and all those things to see if we can make some progress over the next little while. I'm really confident that we can. I really believe that. I don't just say that because I'm up in front of a couple of hundred people or 300 people, but I think that there's a lot of potential, and I think there's a lot of will. And if everybody works, giddy up.
Great. There's been a lot of talk about de-amalgamation in the past. How do we ensure that all parts of HRM feel part of and engaged in our city?
Is that Don Mills? I know Don is here. We are a big municipality. In fact, at my first meeting of the big city mayors, Jim Watson, the mayor of Ottawa, was going around with a map showing Calgary, Edmonton, some other cities, that they all fit inside Ottawa. But then Ottawa fits very comfortably inside Halifax. Ottawa does have one thing, though, that we don't have, which is a rural economic sort of development task force. So I think that that's important. I can't give you all the answers in that. What I always say is this, and this is what I believe, that what really has to happen from a leadership point of view is that there has to be the same voice in downtown Halifax as there is in Ecum-Secum, and that voice has to be that we are all affected by the suffering and the success of each other. I believe downtown revitalization will not just help the downtown, but it'll help entire HRM, not only in terms of tax revenue, but in terms of synergies, whether it be tourism, whether it be food production, whether it be economic development. I love the fact that the Halifax Port and the Sheet Harbour Port are now connected and working together to try to make things happen. I think it's a good model. And you know, I want to have discussions with lots of people about how to do that. There's smart people in the room. I want to say something here. This goes to what Charles had in the paper today. It goes to comments of people like Don Mills and others. We need ideas. Ideas are never the enemy. What I hate is somebody who says, I hate that, right? I mean, look what passes for dialogue in our world today. Public dialogue. I mean, do we have public discussions in the House of Commons in question period? Is that a discussion? Do we have that in the legislature? Do we always have it in council? Do you have it on the talk shows? Council, to me, municipal government is the opportunity to bring ideas to the table without all the distractions of ideology and past history. So I want every idea that I can get, whether it's Don Mills, Bill Black, whether it's the 3 senators who are proposing maritime union. Let's not denigrate ideas. Let's talk about them. And I think the more we discuss them in an open and civil way, the better off we're going to be on all issues.
So while I don't mean to simplify the matter, what is the #1 issue that prevents Halifax becoming as great as we can be?
Well, look, I'm not one to take credit for things, but the week I was sworn in as mayor, the Halifax Mooseheads became the #1 ranked hockey team in the country. That week. No. What is the one thing that holds us back? I think to some extent it's a belief in ourselves. People don't know how good we are sometimes in terms of some of our successes. I mean, the ocean science piece, for example. What do we have, 400 PhDs in ocean science in Halifax? I think sometimes we allow ourselves to get in the way. I think that this council is prepared to look at big issues. We've got smart people. I think the citizens, if they understand all the potential that exists here, if you haven't got a port, they're a hard thing to build. If you haven't got a deep harbor, they're hard to come by. If you haven't got, what other city in North America, right off the top, of 400,000 people, has 6 universities and a robust community college, right? Like, I think we have all these assets, and I may be simplifying it to some extent, but I really believe that one of the roles of us as leadership is to get people to realize just how good we can be, starting from where we are. We're not starting in 6th place, right? And I always said, if you want to, you know, when people said you're running for mayor, I say, yeah, you know, if you want to, you know, really succeed in something and look good doing it, you know, you don't want to be the next coach of the Stanley Cup champion. You want to be the next coach of the Edmonton Oilers with all that young potential, right? I think Halifax has all kinds of potential. I don't necessarily see myself as the coach, but I think we have all the assets that we need to make a huge mark in the world. And we're going to make that point or die trying over the next number of years.
Great, great. Can you speak to the importance of integrating multiculturalism into our city?
Sure, yeah. Well, yeah, that's yeah.
It's important.
Was that an articulate answer? You know what, I remember in the campaign, and this may be a little off track, but we had a debate on multiculturalism, and we need more immigrants here. We need more people from different backgrounds living and working in Halifax. We need to, those of us who have been here for generations, need to understand that there's other people who've been here for generations that we don't see or talk to on a regular basis. You know, when I was a child, my father, who was new to Canada, a doctor in Dartmouth, started going out to North Preston, a community that was affected by, you know, really affected by racism for many, many years and had very little, didn't have bus service, didn't even have a doctor's clinic, and he set up a doctor's clinic. As a result, as a child, and my brothers and sisters spent much time in North Preston and East Preston, Cherrybrook and places like that. That wasn't really heard of. So multiculturalism is really important for us all to understand that we all share this space. We need more immigrants. We need to understand the strength that I think comes from diversity. And it doesn't happen organically. Like we do need measures that make sure that people are sensitive to other communities within us. If we're going to grow the way that we should, we need people not just to sort of come here and then go to Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver. We need people who look a little bit different than most of us to come here and invest here and stay here and be part of our community. And I think that that's going to be the key to having the economic success and the social cohesion that we need to have in the years to come.
Great, thank you. So a final question that I will add, because I have the podium and the mic, but it's a question about the Chamber. And you mentioned that there's room, that Chamber members have to ask if they have room for an intern or a new hire, that you'll be looking for the Chamber to provide input into a national housing strategy. But how else can the Chamber work with the city to move toward the vision that you've articulated?
I think say nice things about the mayor and council would be good.
I can't commit to that.
I think there's a lot of ways. I really believe that one of the things a successful community city does is it has good partnerships. And partnerships are based on trust and respect. And they're based on a certain level of expectation. So from a city's point of view in dealing with the Chamber or anybody else, I would say this: we owe it to you to be direct and clear in our expectations. We owe it to you to be honest. You owe it to us to be honest. And you also owe it to the municipal officials that are elected, in my view, and the staff, that these are good people. And we are all trying to do our very best on your behalf. We're not enemies. We should be friends. And if we are honest and direct with you, then I would expect that you'll be honest and direct with us. My door is open. I know that my colleagues on council want to hear and listen to your points of view. And I think if we have that dialogue, we've had it with you, Paula, we're going to have it with Andrew, with the Chamber, then I think between us, nothing will hold us back.
Well, on behalf of the Chamber, I can commit to us being honest and direct, so thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Mike, for taking time out. Mike talked a bit about, can I call you Mike?
Yeah.
Mayor Savage.
Can I say one last thing?
Oh, you may.
Just want to, since it is we're coming up on the season, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a wonderful New Year, and a very successful World Juniors with 2 Mooseheads, hopefully, on the World Junior Hockey team. And I do again want to thank my council. I know we have some new members, myself, Matt Whitman, Way Mason, and Steve Craig, who are probably here. We're new, and we're learning as we go. And this bunch here has been very helpful and gracious to us. So I thank them for that, and I thank you all for coming out today, and I wish you the very best for the holidays. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mike. Just as Mike is leaving the stage, on behalf of the Chamber, we would like to make a donation on your behalf to the charity of your choice, and that is Margaret's House. So a very, very warm thank you. That concludes today's luncheon. I wish you a wonderful afternoon and a happy holiday. Thank you.